Meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, to be held July 19th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And let's have our Deputy Clerk please take the roll.
Councilmember Henry?
Here.
Councilmember Holes is absent. Councilmember Karat?
Present.
Councilmember Matthews?
Here.
Councilmember Wilden is absent. Vice Mayor Naren? Here. And Mayor Alinsky?
Here. Thank you. Okay, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is a brief summary of current events by the Mayor, City Council, and/or City Manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during the summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. And council members, anything to report? Go ahead.
I did have a couple of things, and I'll be brief in light of our packed agenda. Councilmember Wilden and I, our City Manager, Tricia Lewis, and our police chief attended the annual Chamber of Commerce dinner. I had a really good time at that and actually won some money, and the prizes were great, and it was a fun event, and a good job done by the Chamber and their volunteers and staff putting that on. Councilmember Wilden and I also attended the memorial for YCSO fallen officer Lopez in Prescott Valley, which was very touching and also a very wonderful tribute, very moving too. I had not met the officer community and law enforcement memorial. And then lastly, you were there, Mayor. You and Ron Corbin and our city manager and I went up and welcomed the new for one of our Verde Valley's longest serving town managers, and it was nice to be able to chat briefly with him and excited to moving forward, working with Jerome as always moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Corbin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, bear with me tonight. We have a little bit of a list going on. So the regular meeting of the Cottonwood Airport Commission to be held on Wednesday, August 3rd has been canceled. Apparently our chair back in the Midwest, very excited about that. The City of Cottonwood is seeking applicants to join the Cottonwood Youth Advisory Commission. Students in grades 8 through 12 are encouraged to apply by submitting an application by August 12th. Members will meet once a month during Contact Dana Dow with any questions at 639-3200. The Cottonwood Fire Department will be hosting a back-to-school at our local Walmart. Help us supply our local Cottonwood Oak Creek School District students with the tools they need to succeed. Please follow the Cottonwood Fire Department on Facebook for updates. Join us this Saturday, July 23rd, as we watch Encanto during the dive-in movies at the outdoor pool. Entry is free and gates open at 1:45. There will be pizza available for purchase. I almost thought I read pizza and beer, but I guess that doesn't go with a kids' movie Encanto, so sorry about that. Good job, Parks. The public is invited to help us celebrate the accomplishments of local Cottonwood and Sedona Ceremony and Expo. Free tickets to this event are available. Follow Fuerza Local on Facebook at Fuerza Local AZ for updates. And then join Yavapai College for an informative students and anyone interested in taking a class at Yavapai College. The open house at the Verde Valley campus will take place on visit yc.edu/open house for more information. The Parks and Recreation Department would like to remind the public that the new membership rates will go into effect August 1st. Please visit Cottonwood. And then I wanted to let council know that I'll be attending the ACMA Summer Conference in Tucson for the rest of this week. And then next week, beginning on Thursday, I'll be on vacation. See periodically from Alaska.
All right, very good. Well deserved. Okay, so next on the agenda is call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action, and comments are limited to. Okay. We'll move on then to approval of the minutes of the work session of May 5th, 2022, and the regular meeting of June 21st, 2022. I'll motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion. All right, minutes are approved. Okay, next is the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence. We've got 7 items. 140, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Mingus Union High School District for a school resource officer. Item 2 is resolution number 3142, appointing Randy Stevens to the Historic Preservation Commission. Item 3 is contract with Dibble Engineering for the engineering and design. 4th is contract with Hazen and Sawyer Engineers for the Mingus Avenue wastewater treatment plant. Purchase of a closed circuit TV camera van for the wastewater department through the Source Well Purchasing Cooperative. 6, SRE transportation for biosolids hauling services. And last, item 7 is cooperative purchase of financial budgeting and procurement software subscriptions from Carasoft Technology Corp. Through a member of the public or council member would like to have pulled for discussion? No. All right, I'll go ahead and motion then that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Henry second. Our deputy clerk, please read resolutions number 3140, 3142 by title only, please.
Resolution number 3140, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, Union High School District number 4, for the services of a school resource officer to be provided by the Cottonwood Police Department. And resolution number 3142, a resolution of the Mayor and the City's Historic Preservation Commission and establishing her term of office.
Great, thank you. Okay, next is new business, and the following items are for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. And first up, a moment we've all been waiting for. It's the public hearing regarding adoption of the city's fiscal year 2022-23 final budget.
Financial Services Director, and this portion of the agenda is set aside for public comment on the fiscal year 22-23 budget. To
the public, if there's anybody here who would like to address the council on ever had? No, okay. All right, don't worry, we're going to start a new budget process here momentarily, so. And we did do a road show. I know we went out and did some direct outreach to folks in the community on this very budget. Okay, great. Okay, let's go ahead and close the floor, then we'll move on to the second item here, which is resolution number 3141, adopting the final budget for fiscal year 22-23 and establishing an expenditure limitation.
We're going to adopt the fiscal year 22-23 limitation for the tentative budget that was slightly higher than what the final budget ended up being. There were a few small changes to the fiscal year 22 budget. We increased the line item for the community cleanup for Public Works. An outpouring of people bringing stuff in from the city, and they actually ended up needing $30,000 more to cover all the garbage that up their yards, which was a great thing. So we had to increase that budget, and then we also had to for a copier that, due to supply chain issues, will not be here in time, which is the story of a lot of things this year. And we changed it in the finance department's capital budget for the budgeting and procurement software that was approved on the consent agenda, and the copier. Increase for code enforcement for some items that they needed. All in all, it was basically a decrease of 23 budget. Everything else that was in the budget, we've discussed at previous meetings. There's all the documentation and everything is included with the council communication.
All right. No, I know we've certainly gone over this at great length.
Anytime. And we did outreach. We actually had our best turnout, I would say, ever for a budget presentation at the Chamber's breakfast. There was probably 20, 25 people there, and they asked lots of questions, and it was actually a really great experience to be able to.
All right, well, I'll entertain a motion then if there's no discussion from council.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. Resolution number 3141, adopting the city's proposed fiscal year 2023 final budget is presented, and to establish the city's fiscal year 2023 $23,660.
All right, I'll second that. So Councilmember Matthews made the motion. Mayor seconded it. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Councilmember Henry,
Yes.
Councilmember Karat,
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Naren.
Yes.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thanks for your great work on that. And let's have our Deputy Clerk read resolution number 3141 by title only, please.
Resolution number 3141, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the final budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 and establishing an expenditure limitation.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next on our new business is interview of applicant for the city's Public Safety Personnel Retirement System Local Board.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amanda Wilbur, HR Director. We have one vacancy local board here. We received one application from Mr. Ron Collis, who is here ready to interview with you tonight. And before he interviews, I just wanted to let council know that he does meet the minimum qualifications for this board.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Collis, would you mind coming up to the podium? And just want to say thank you very much for stepping up and applying. We appreciate that very much. So we're going to interview you this evening, but we'll make a decision at a regular council meeting in the future.
Okay.
So we just have a few extremely difficult and challenging questions for you. So I hope you came prepared.
I'm well prepared.
Okay, good. All right, first up, please tell us why you wish to serve on this board.
The reason I wish to serve is I like to do community service. I'm very active in our community in Cornville, and this kind of fits my expertise, so that's why I'd like to serve.
Okay, great. And then, speaking of your expertise, can you talk about your specific qualifications for this board?
Yes, I was a CPA for at least 30 years. I'm now an enrolled agent with the A.R.S. For the last 10 years since I moved to Arizona. I taught at the university for about 40 years, both at the graduate and undergraduate levels. So I think that's probably sufficient.
I would agree. All right, and then what do you hope to accomplish during your appointment?
I hope to help with whatever I can do. I mean, obviously, whatever benefit that I can bring to the board with my experience, that's what I hope to accomplish. Nothing personal outside of that.
Sure. All right. Any other questions, council? No? Okay. See, that was easy, right?
I'm sorry?
That was easy, right?
Yeah, it was easy. Very easy.
Thank you very much for coming in this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be in touch. Thanks. All right, let's go on to item 4 then, which is consideration and possible approval of a proposed employee referral bonus program.
Hello again. As we've talked several times about, recruitment's very difficult right now. Our hope is to implement an employee referral bonus program to use as a tool to help get more applicants in and hopefully hire great candidates. So even though it's a difficult market, we have found that our employees and spreading by word of mouth has been one of our most successful ways to get great candidates. So we're hoping that this type of program will help incentivize and reward employees for helping us get the word out and finding great people. This has already been included in the budget, so it's not anything new, like no new expense or anything like that. But we do need council's approval to implement this type of program because it does involve giving compensation to employees. So our plan would be to hopefully get approval from council to implement the program and then manage the program at an administrative level after that. So with that, I'm open to any questions you have about the process or our proposed program as we have it outlined in the in communication.
Council, any questions? No? Okay. I know this isn't a brand new idea. I think there's other municipalities, even here in the Verde Valley, that utilize this program or similar program?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. If there's no discussion, I'll take a motion.
I'll go ahead and move to approve the proposed employee referral bonus program as presented and authorize the city manager to modify the program rules as he deems appropriate.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Henry made the motion and Matthews seconded that motion. Let's have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Henry,
Yes.
Councilmember Karat,
Yes.
and Councilmember Matthews,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Naren,
yes,
and Mayor Linsky.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council, you better slow down. We're going to wrap this thing up before 7 if we don't.
Move it along.
All right, next. Ordinance number 715, amending the zoning map of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona for approximately 93 acres of land owned by the city, Yavapai County, and local school districts from the current zoning designation of R1, R3, AR20, and CO, formerly county zoning, to CF Community Facility. This is the first reading.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm Gary Davis, Senior Planner with Community Development. Staff has initiated this zone change to CF zoning, community facility for about 93 acres for publicly owned properties that are now zoned, the zones you mentioned, R1, R3, AR20, a little bit of C2 and CO. We have about 93 acres in total for rezone, 90 of which conforms with the general plan's designation for public service uses, 3 of which are not designated for public services, and those would require a general plan amendment. That will be scheduled for consideration on August 2nd, which would be coinciding with the second reading of this ordinance if it goes forward. Community facilities zone allows for parks, cemeteries, public schools, fairgrounds, airports, and government administration. For some reason, these parcels were not zoned community facility. They were zoned residential. It includes parcels owned by Cottonwood Oak Creek School District, Yavapai County, the city, and Mingus Union High School District, totaling about 93 acres across the city. This map, if you can see it, the cross-hatched areas show the areas that are proposed for going from residential zones to the CF zone. This would be the northeast corner of Mingus and Willard, the community school campus, the county facility, and the library are, believe it or not, R1 zoned right now. And the public safety facility, the home of the fire department and police department, are all zoned either R1 or R3. As I mentioned before, the general plan calls for almost all this land to be public uses, except for a portion that's owned by the school district. They purchased it later and are using it for, I believe, bus storage. That would be the subject of a general plan amendment in August. Moving south, this is the Mingus Union campus, a number of parcels that are owned by Mingus Union, including a little sliver of land down here that is zoned C2, and a piece of property here that is zoned CO, which is, I believe, a remnant of land that was in the county a long time ago. There's no description of it in our zoning ordinance, and this is the only bit of it left. So if this becomes community facility zoned, that mystery zoning classification will go away. And again, most of this is designated in the general plan for public uses, except for the little sliver of C2 general commercial designation that was purchased by the high school district. We have done a neighborhood meeting before we brought it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. 2 people showed up and they wanted to talk about something else. So we haven't received any public input on it so far. We took it to the Planning and Zoning Commission in June 27th. They unanimously recommended approval of this change of the zoning to the CF zone. That concludes my presentation, unless there are questions.
All right, questions from council?
I just had a quick question. If any of the properties, I know through the years there had been discussion about what to do with one of the parcels not owned by the city. So if one of these parcels were later transferred, what would happen to the CF zoning?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Henry, if it was to be transferred to a private party and they wanted to do a private use on it, the rezoning would have to occur, and probably a general plan amendment would have to occur to consider that use.
So this is a potential restriction or something to consider as far as a potential transfer down the road, long term?
Down the road, yes. But as we mentioned in the staff report and on the graphics here, these are properties that are almost all in use right now by a public entity. So we don't anticipate that the use would change on most of these properties, but there would be the possibility of going through a general plan amendment and a rezone.
And then the main pro for the city, at least, is greater flexibility, and, well, city and the other public entities is greater flexibility in the potential uses and ease of change of use within that CF?
Yes, that's correct. Under the current zoning that's residential, it restricts you to residential uses, which includes things like signs. In a residential zone, you can only have very small signs. There are things like that that create little legal gray areas that we would prefer to get rid of. We don't like gray areas that much. So it would be nice to have the zone in compliance with the land use designation in the general plan.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I have a question about your, did you do direct outreach to the superintendents of both?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We sent emails out, got a few questions, answered a few questions, didn't receive any comments back from the school districts or from the county. We did talk to the county as well.
Okay, so they saw no hindrance at all in moving this into CF zoning? No? Okay.
No.
Mr. Mayor, if I can ask for clarification from Gary. One of the school districts, one of the pieces of property we're not rezoning, and that's because they don't know what they're going to use that property for in the future. Is that correct? Is that what I understand?
Yes.
For Cottonwood Oak Creek?
No, this is
actual
the
high school.
Mingus Union High School District.
Yeah.
Across Camino Real is a piece of R2 property that is currently zoned by the school district. Mm-hmm. They're not exactly sure what they want to do with it, if that's going to be a public use or if it's going to be some sort of that's one property that could be sold off in the future that wouldn't be encumbered by this new community facilities zone.
I believe
And it
Mingus,
is designated in the general plan as medium-density residential.
okay. And they requested that zone change, didn't they, some years back? Mingus Union High School? Of that property that they owned?
May have been before my time, I don't
Okay.
know.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
And I actually appreciate that clarification as well, because that, I wasn't clear on the map that that was the parcel that was accepted out. And yes, that's my recollection
Okay.
too.
And then for Cottonwood Oak Creek School District, that other section of land where the bus barn currently sits, they wanted to pull that from community facilities, to not zone that community facilities. Is that correct?
No, that would be zoned community facilities as well. That shows up here in the rezone area, and it would be transferred to a land use designation of the PSP, the Public Services. They do have a parcel here that's zoned commercial that we did not transfer.
Okay.
There's a little old strip center there. We talked to them, and that would stay.
Okay.
That would stay commercial.
And that's where Joachim's office is and all that right now currently, I think, Dr. Joachim. Okay. Okay, that answers my question. Any others from council? Anyone from the community? I don't think there's anyone here from the community right now. A couple people. Okay, great. This is first reading, so we'll bring it back for a second reading. Thank you very much. And let's have our deputy clerk read ordinance number 715 by title only, please.
Ordinance number 715, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the zoning map of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, for approximately 93 acres of land owned by the city, Yavapai County, and local school districts from the current zoning designations of R1, R3, AR20, and CO, former county zoning, to CF, community facility.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, next is ordinance number 716, amending designated sections of the city zoning ordinance to allow public utility buildings, structures, or appurtenances as conditional uses under revised development standards. Again, first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Still Gary Davis, Senior Planner, Community Development. Staff initiated this this amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow for conditional use permits for small unoccupied utility facilities to not only have the use on a particular property, but also to have an exception to the development regulations in that zone that establish a minimum lot size and setbacks. These small facilities such as pump houses, switch houses, whether it's city utilities or other utilities, generally don't need land. They just need enough to set their facility on, especially since they're unoccupied. There's no need for parking or anything like that. So we wanted to add into the provision for the conditional use permit to be able to amend those development regulations downward. And since this is an ordinance amendment, state law does require the legislative body of a municipality to consider whether or not this amendment would have a likely impact on the cost of building housing. Obviously, this would not have anything like that. We don't see a way that it would affect that. The only way it might even affect development of housing is that reducing the size required for one of these facilities would free up other land that could potentially be used for housing instead of devoted to one of these small facilities.
Sure.
The other thing that's proposed in this amendment is to clarify that these buildings would be unoccupied. So it's not like a utility office or anything that needs parking or occupancy would be eligible for this. It would just be for one of those little utility buildings.
Great.
So that concludes our report, unless you have
Okay.
any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Davis? No? Okay. Anybody from the public with any questions? No. Okay. All right, well, this all sounds good, and again, it's forward thinking, which we've come to expect from you. So thank you. First reading only, so we'll bring it back at a future date. And let's have our deputy clerk please read ordinance number 716 by title only, please.
Ordinance number 716, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the zoning ordinance by amending sections pertaining to conditional uses of public utility building structures or appurtenances.
That's a tough one. All right.
Close enough.
Thank you. Okay, last on the agenda. Thanks, Mr. Davis. Appreciate it. Last on the agenda is a request from the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition to waive building permit fees for a new transitional house, emergency shelter, renovations, and grading permits.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Scott Ellis, Community Development Director. As mentioned, this is a request from the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition to waive fees in the amount of $6,775 for their transitional housing. It was approved earlier this year by the Planning and Zoning Commission with design review. Structurally, it is a single-family home, but there's going to be 6 bedrooms in it. This is the plan review fees, the permit fees that come out to approximately this amount here. They have historically had fee waivers, not for building permits, but for applications, those sorts of things. The building official is here to answer any fee-specific questions you might have. We also have a representative from the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition if you have any questions for them as well. This does not include water or wastewater fees. We cannot waive those.
Right.
And with that, any questions?
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Ellis, Council? No. Discussion? Any concerns or questions? I know we've historically helped out our nonprofits in the community, but we wanted to make sure to bring it in front of council in case there's any concerns.
I'm okay with helping out the non-for-profits, but I just want to make sure we're covering any direct cost or indirect cost with staff time, so we're not constantly giving everything away.
Mm-hmm. Can you speak to that, Mr. Ellis?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
How much of like staff time and indirect or direct costs do we have?
Cody, you have those? Cody has those numbers. He did do a breakdown of what that was for planning, building, fire, everybody who's involved with these in inspections and reviews.
Okay.
Mayor, Evening Council, Cody Blazer, building official. So I did a breakdown basically from permit intake all the way through review and through inspections. Basically, it's about a 2.5 hour portion of time is devoted to the permit facilitation. Then there's planning, review time, and inspection time of 1.5 hours. Then there's also lighting as well, with having 1.5 hours as well for review and inspection. Fire has approximately 2.5 hours for review and a 2-hour inspection time. And building has approximately 6 hours of review and 8.5 hours of inspection for this project.
Okay. Does that help answer your? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay.
So did that answer your question? Because I don't know. We're waiving our staff, the cost for the permit, if I understood correctly. So I don't know. I mean, are there additional questions or concerns? Or I think I'm missing perhaps the answer.
So we'd be in a ballpark of like 1,500 or so on actual direct costs.
Mr. Councilmember Crott, that's probably close to it, yeah. So 24 hours multiplied by $30 or $40 an hour, EREs, depending on the level of staff that are out there. Like, if I can ask Scott to step back 1 second, see if I can make eye contact with Kirsten. Yeah, so I think that's about right, about 1,500 of actual staff costs. Again, that's already budgeted, it's already, time, but if you're asking about an average cost, 24 hours, $1,500 sounds up close, 15 to 2,000 with EREs.
Okay.
So are you proposing approving a reduced amount than the request?
Yeah, I'd be looking at more, just at least to cover our cost on doing the permit. Inspection.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to put that in a motion?
So one item that I think you did identify in the packet, this is a considerably greater amount or requested amount than in past years. So we're looking at a multiplier of 5 or 6 times what we've historically done. I don't remember though, and perhaps others or even you, Mayor, can help educate me or refresh my memory. I don't remember if we've done a similar analysis in the past.
In terms of the cost of staff time, direct cost of staff time? I don't think so. Not to my memory, but, and council's shifted on this too. Now, I mean, not always have we waived permit fees for nonprofits, but in the last, I don't know how many years we've had a pattern of doing that, but again, it's all up to council's.
It is up, Mr. Mayor, council, it's up to you guys, your prerogative. Mr. Rodriguez has been around a while. He might be able to tell you if, I do believe this is a recent phenomenon about waiving fees. I believe that the city has even charged ourselves when we've done things. So,
Mayor and Council, it is a rarity that we go out and do and waive those type of fees. Not that we cannot do it, it's just that we've never brought those before council.
So you're saying in just recent history is when we've waived fees for?
This would be something new.
Yeah, okay.
Mayor, if you would permit perhaps the applicant to address council and provide
Certainly.
additional justification for the waiver and maybe additional discussion?
Absolutely. Ms. Quazula, would you mind stepping up, please?
Yes. Good evening, Council and Mayor. And yes, Verde Valley Homeless Coalition has appreciated every time we have received waivers. The reason that we're requesting this waiver is that we know the building and labor costs have increased exponentially since this grant was written through Arizona Department of Housing. So by omitting these costs, we feel like the waiver will allow us to apply those funds for both building materials and labor. And just to note, Verde Valley Homeless Coalition will pay all of the sewer, water capacity fees as well as sales tax. That is part of our grant, and we will pay that. The project is ready to go. It's being advertised, and bids are due on August 11th, so we're moving right along. Any other questions I could?
Okay. All right, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
And just to remind council, this project is the one for which the city is the pass-through grantor for the housing funds.
Okay. All right, so let's make a decision here. I'd be fine with trying to cover our hard costs. I think that's completely reasonable, and I don't think it's setting a precedent that's reckless in any way at all. So if you want to make that motion, I'd be fine with that. Before you do, I have to say, like I always do, I serve on the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition board. I don't get paid for that. There's no conflict in me making a motion this evening. Okay. And Steve was nodding at the affirmative.
Yes,
so.
That is correct. Let the record show. That is correct.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Crott.
So if we, you're saying about $2,000 would cover?
Mayor, Councilmember Crott, yes.
So I move to approve the request to waive permit fees for the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition in the amount to $4,775 $4.13.
All right, I'll second that. So Councilmember Crott made the motion, Mayor seconded. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Councilmember Henry?
I actually had a question on that, and I apologize. So, because that may include more than just our hard costs. We don't have an exact number of what our hard costs are.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember, that's correct. We did not do the math by the employees or EREs, so this is an estimate off the cuff. If you would prefer to alter the motion to have staff calculate the actual expected cost and subtract that, we can do that if that pleases council, versus an estimate.
Would you care to amend your motion to reflect that?
Okay, so I move to approve the request to waive permit fees excluding direct costs.
Okay, I'll second that. So Councilmember Crott made the motion, Mayor seconded, and roll call vote.
I'm a yes on the amended motion. Thank you.
Councilmember Crott?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Naren?
yes,
And Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you. And next is claims and adjustments. I had a motion to pay the claims.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Henry second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I move to adjourn.
Second.
Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Matthews seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.